Hello, my people. Welcome back to Eke React. I'm back with another trending topic in Nigeria. So for this trending video, it's all about the continuous detention of the leader of indigenous people of Biafra, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. So this story no be little story again, but it cause serious buzz for the southwest. From wahala where they happen every Monday sit at home to the detention where no they allow business and people for the area enjoy peace. So person wey dem sabi well for the region, Valentine Ezigbo, don come out talk say the matter no dey help anybody at all. He say e dey cause more division and setback for development where the people of southeast dey find. You understand? So for this video also, Valentine Ezigbo, also talk wetin the continuous detention of Nnamdi Kanu mean for the peace and stability of the southeast. And he also talk how he believe the matter fit get solution and the impact where this situation they cause for the common man, trader, and the entire region. So sit down, Gidiwa. No touch that your phone or remote. Don't forget to press the like button, subscribe, and share this video.
Our attention is once again drawn to the security situation that has left many lives ending in a tragically gory state in the southeast region, as the situation goes from what you could call bad to worse, making the unarmed civilian an endangered species in his daily life. The Nigerian military has been trying to forestall this ugly recurrence, while the regional security threat has spread its roots into widespread criminal activities and violence. I'm delighted to have the former PDP governorship candidate in 2021, currently a Labour Party stalwart, and immediate past president and chief executive officer of the Transcorp Group, Val Ezigbo. He joins us on Arise Prime Time. Glad to have you join me.
Thanks so much, MD.
Yeah, well done. Just like we talked about there, let's go straight to the fact that Simon Ekpa has been arrested. And will this stop insecurity in the southeast? What do you think? Also, I'm saying the emergence of a new female leader, a female, has occurred. So what do you think? Will this stop the insecurity we're experiencing in the southeast?
To be honest, I think for me, the place I want to start off this conversation is to try to paint a picture of how terrible things are in the southeast. I was reading a report recently by a group of NGOs and authored by one Emeka Umeagbalasi and his colleagues, and they documented a lot of atrocities that have happened in the entire southeast, where in their reckoning, over 65,000 people had been victims of kidnapping and what have you, and over 32,000 deaths from different, whether state actors and non-state actors. And all of these things tell you the level of deterioration we've suffered. And what is saddening is what has happened even in recent time, particularly in my own dear state, Anambra, where nobody's spared. Archbishops not spared, House of Assembly members not spared, Reverend fathers, Reverend sisters, lawyers, nobody's spared. It's just a matter of who's going to be the next victim. And when this happens, there is not even any hope in sight, no rescue in sight. It's just when the criminals decide to leave you off, if they decide to murder you or sell your body parts, it's their decision. And they do this unchecked. There's no threat of, oh, we're going to be arrested, nothing like that. They can spend a whole 30 minutes, 1 hour in an incident, and this is how bad it's become. And so when we're now going to go into the root cause of this, I don't think it's appropriate to just coalesce it into IPOB activities, because that's what your question is tending to suggest. Arrest of Simon Ekpa, will it stop? As if that's the only, no. Let's go deep into what actually the root causes of this issue. In my opinion, again, it's just when you have poor leadership, because even within the same southeast, some states are better than some. Anambra is seen as the worst today. Enugu is relatively better. Abia is better. What are they doing differently? Still the same. And guess what? Sam Ekpa is not even from Anambra State. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is not even from Anambra State. Why is Anambra the worst? Boils down to issue of leadership. Now, let's talk about the IPOB. I believe that agitation actually is not a wrong thing in itself. Somebody saying, this is what I want, it's not a wrong thing. How you go about it could be wrong. And how also the government treats it could be wrong. And that's what we've been facing today. I'm one of those who have called for release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. I don't think the continued detention, incarceration, and all of this is helping matters. And quite frankly, I don't know Simon Ekpa. We see some of the videos he does. And whether he changes, replaces, I think is irrelevant to what we're talking about. Because what has happened is that there are now huge criminal elements that hide under the auspice of IPOB to create all manner of issues. But truly speaking, they are not agitators. They are criminals. So what I say to leaders, forget about this nomenclature. Deal with criminals of whatever form.
I think your governor has even made that statement. He said, let's call a spade and not an agricultural instrument. Let's call criminals criminals.
Yes.
And deal with them as criminals.
Purely.
So why is that not happening? I'll ask you this. Because you said it's a question of leadership.
Yes.
So have the governors of the security of the Herod SE of the Southeast, have they shared their responsibilities even with the security votes?
The answer is yes and no. Because I don't want you to put all of them in one basket. Something happened recently in Anambra State where a priest was kidnapped. Another reverend father had to call a governor of another state for help to track what happened in Anambra State. And when the whole thing was done and finally, thankfully, the priest was released, they had to go back to the governor in Enugu State to say thank you for helping us. What I'm saying to you is that it's not just the case of the Southeast governors. Let's be specific. Some are doing much better than others. In the case of Anambra State, I have no clue what is going on. Why can't we, since the beginning of this administration by Governor Soludo, we haven't seen much being done in the area of insecurity. We've not seen even vehicles bought for security agencies. You hear cases of when they're even sent to work, they get demotivated, demoralized, and then they just ignore. And then if you look at all the cases that have happened, the same story. There's not any attempt to rescue.
But that's not the picture. I interviewed him here. That's not the picture the governor painted. The picture, I told him that. So I'm said in 15 local government areas, they were asking the president to declare a state of emergency, but he said it must be some, for lack of, let me not use miscreants, some people he doesn't know, but that they've done quite some good job that they're speaking in Anambra State. That's what he said. I don't want us to shape this into a debate because it's not. Do me one favor. You have your correspondent in Awka. Figure out what is going on. In Anambra State, the government house, few meters away at Nibo, they were celebrating New Year Festival. Criminals took their time, killed many people. Up to today, not a single person has been arrested. In the case of Awka North, the entire of the Urum Bush and all of that, if you see and hear evidences from kidnapped victims who were thankfully released and they tell their story, it is alarming. Once this interview is over, I'm going to share a lot more. Okay. The point here is that every single Anambra person who is savvy enough to understand what is going on, we all come to the same conclusion that nothing has been done so far. It's not a matter of these things are happening, but what is our response? Where is the leadership? What are you doing to create, first of all, the intelligence, the control room, where you monitor and see what is happening in different parts of Anambra State? What are you doing to empower the security agencies, and how do you craft the architecture that bring it down to the local units? How do you integrate the Ndigwes, the town unions, into all of this? How do you actually even provide sufficient empowerment for young people so that they can be gainfully employed? How do you become a source of inspiration and hope so that people will know that if they work hard, they will make a living? The point here is that we are in a situation where, guess what? Everybody is helpless and there is no hope in sight. And just recently, it's saying that after Christmas, it's going to launch some security initiative. And people are saying, why wait until after Christmas? Are you using that for a re-election gimmicks or what? What happened in the first 3 years of your administration? Why are you waiting on the twilight to launch? Because we say this because we know sometimes what usually happens is leadership. They are usually the architect of some of these things. They empower criminals for political gains. And when they're not in power, they don't know how to treat these criminals. How do you even recover some of the guns you've armed wrong people? And this is what we keep saying. And it's not just in Nigeria. The whole case of banditry, you hear cases across
of
the length and
yes, you hear cases of these people actually came in through the politicians who use them for nefarious activities. And then when the job is done for them, what next? They have
because
no answer.
They don't have employment.
They have no answer.
They start, again, you've raised another issue. You have the leader, because we're talking particularly about the Southeast, even though you mentioned, of course, Nigeria in general. Have the leaders in the Southeast, do you think that they played the ostrich looking for the cause of the problem outside their shores while the problem is within? Because I've seen so many leaders talk about, okay, I'm going to come to Nnamdi Kanu and all that. But don't you think they've played the ostrich, begging the issue, looking for, somebody said it's only the rat that is inside that tells the one outside that there's fish in the kitchen.
100%. If you actually dig further, if you read this report I'm talking about, it identified the real actors. You will see the one that are external influence. You also see the one internal influence. A lot of the things happening are actually being created and caused by also the people of Anambra State.
We're not talking only about Anambra
Yes,
State.
I'm just using, okay, the same way. If you go to Imo, you go to Ebonyi, you go
Abia,
to
yeah.
Abia, you see those cases. Because what you even find is that simple intelligence. I sat down with a top police officer recently, and I said to him, well, I see effort he's making, what is going on? And he was blaming it on the locals. Do you know something may happen today here at this port? They will pursue, give a chase, and then when they get there, ask the locals, where did they go to? Nobody will talk. And I said to him, do you know why that is happening? It's happening because some of them are under oath, which means nothing. It's just a matter of they get intimidated. And some of them don't trust you guys to be able to provide this information because they don't know who they're talking to. And maybe once the information gets back to these criminals, that is this guy, you create a problem for that whole family. And so, what do? You think differently. It's all imagination, creativity. Create a whistleblowing opportunity and an anonymous way of gathering this information so that people are protected when they give out this information. What I'm saying, in fact, is that none of these things are intractable. We've had issues like this in the past, and we solved them. So it's just a case of leadership. And what I keep saying to people, they should stop looking at whether it's external or internal. Don't blame anybody. Take ownership.
With the issue.
Take leadership. Do what you have to do. Because you are the chief security officer.
In the state. Now, because what we discuss, I mean, we must not forget the fact that the purpose of the discussion anyway is to find solutions to these problems. I was discussing with a security expert, Kabiru Adamu, and he believes that a tripartite dialogue between the federal government, the state, and the leadership of the proscribed Biafran groups, especially Kanu, and this can iron out a political settlement to eliminate insecurity in the Southeast in its entirety. What do you make of this as a solution?
I agree with that submission. You know why? Don't give anybody any excuse anymore. If we solve this problem and Nnamdi Kanu is out, you now know that the rest of the people making the noise are criminals. So it's not a case of debating, are they agitators, are they criminals? So agitators, they have basically not much reason anymore. So everybody who causes any other mayhem is a criminal. They treat him as one. Secondly, we go beyond just governor and presidential, and let's also bring it regional. I like to see the governors of Southeast come together and throw away their egos, just come together, blend together, and solve this problem commonly. Because the idea of you chase them in Imo, they run to Anambra. You chase them in Anambra, run to Imo, doesn't help anybody. But if they are able to come together, you chase them concurrently, and they will have no place more.
Ebubago, what has he been able to do?
As far as I'm concerned, the answer is in the result. I don't celebrate effort. Security has worsened in Anambra State and Southeast. Let's figure out how to get it solved. What we've done so far hasn't worked. The only thing I've seen is some states will have made some appreciable improvement. And what I keep mentioning these states, so that let my governor go and copy and replicate what they're doing, so that at least we can feel a little bit safe while hoping for other bigger strategies. And these things are things that can be deployed just within the next 2-3 months and get things. If we show the political will in solving this and show full of certain strategy, and some of them I've spoken about, I've done videos on. In fact, I just did another video today, which I'm going to release tomorrow, just again focusing on insecurity, because it is our #1 problem. Can you imagine how many businesses have left?
I was going to come to that. I mean, I think I have something on business. I'll try to get to that. Nnamdi Kanu founded this now proscribed IPOB in 2012. Since then, it has metamorphosed into varied factions. I mean, we're talking about the root cause of this problem. Some say the root cause of the insecurity in the Southeast is his incarceration, while some others say it's politically motivated to demonize IPOB and the Biafra agitation. Do you agree with that? And has this varied factions exacerbated, the insecurity in the Southeast?
I started from this, and I said to you, agitation in itself
is not a bad thing.
That,
where you go about
that I want to even be alone. Guess what? If a referendum is actually done on Southeast, you'll be shocked what the answer might be. It might actually be that, no, we don't want to be alone, because there's a debate as to what side is better. But let me tell you what actually is going on. Sometimes you actually don't blame the agitator, because there's enough to agitate in this country. I mean, what is even worse is that things are this bad, and there's a conspiracy of silence among the elites and people like you, the journalists. Nothing. You say nothing, do nothing.
We're doing something. That's what we're doing now. That's what we're discussing. So you can't say we say nothing.
And then some of the former leaders, governors and co, because they all have EFCC files, nobody says nothing. That's the worst thing that can happen. That in the face of criminality, everybody keeps quiet. So on that note, Nnamdi Kanu was speaking up. It's actually commendable someone was speaking up. Sometimes he goes overboard, and some of us will cringe. No, you're going too far. But he wasn't. There's actually a good premise for people to agitate in this country. And guess what? It wasn't exclusive to Southeast alone. Almost every part of this country. Today, I don't see anybody agitating more than the northern part of Nigeria today. They are all agitating. But how do they do that? Some do that in the quietness of their home, and we've got to hold leadership accountable if we want a functional democracy. So, but how they managed the whole Nnamdi Kanu thing was and the same thing happened with Boko Haram, by the way. When these things happen, deal with these issues, engage, dialogue, sit down and, guy, what is going on? Why are you doing this? Okay, see what we're going to do. Don't worry. Give hope, inspire people. This thing would have just fizzled away. But no. It's a case of even when they go to court and you see that everything is now being manipulated, begin to see political dimensions to it. Even the Simon Ekpa, there was a lot of accusation that it was opposition from other parts funding him to keep doing what he's doing. We don't even know the truth anymore. But the truth of the matter is that I honestly believe in not digging too much as to the issues in the past. What do we do going forward? And this is where I come in. We need pragmatic leaders who will sit together and say, let's stop blaming this. Take ownership. Because when you hold yourself accountable, imagination things, and then in the case of Anambra, I've said it, why can't we just come together as a people? Whether some of the people of IPO, the church, the Igwes, the government people, the town unions, the traders, let's come together and have a proper dialogue. Where do we go from here? If we have such listening government that can bring everybody together and we craft a common strategy, there's no way this thing can't. But all of a sudden, you just wake up and say, no more Monday sit at home. No solution, no answer. And guess what? People get murdered because you're threatening. There's no plan, no action. Nothing.
It's really a shame that the governors in the Southeast can't stop that. One wonders.
But some have stopped it, by the way. Anyway, they move on. Abia, they move on. Where Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, there's no sit at home in Abia. They move on. But in our own case, we haven't managed it well. That's why I keep saying, when we sit together, we will learn from the successes in different
others,
and we will come together. And this is not about politics. Let's get this job done because people are dying.
It's about security of property and life, and then the business that has been lost over the years. Now you mentioned something about, well, I know you're not in PDP, but just a brief before we end the discussion. It affects you in one way because the talk around town is that all the opposition parties are just failing across the board, and that affects democracy because APC looks like it's standing as a behemoth, and if the opposition can't, rein APC in, then the masses suffer. Ologuaba says he sees the hand of a third force in this matter, the matter of the two secretaries
National Secretary.
National Secretaries, Anyanwu
Sam Anyanwu and
Udoka, on the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
after court cases, you know. What do you make of this statement? Third first in this matter, the APC is responsible. Is that not indicting the party as to its lack of unity?
There's a lot of things wrong with our democracy, and honestly, people like us, me in particular, I left my comfort zone to go into politics because of my rejection of this type of status quo, that we can't continue like this. What you see is a clear case of lack of internal democracy. What you also see, complicity. A lot of people who ought to be talking, guess what? They're not talking because they're compromised. A lot of them have their EFCC files, so they can't speak up. That's what you're seeing. What you're seeing is death of our judiciary, where appeal courts will come up with judgment, another appeal court will come with judgment, because guess what? We are lawless. This country is honestly headed to full-blown lawlessness. Our judiciary needs to sit up. They need to figure out what to do to restore their dignity, their credibility. It's in tatters. I am ashamed, honestly. When I see some of my friends who are in that field, I said to them, what are you people doing? Speak up. Forget about this selfishness. Greed and selfishness is dealing with us. And that's why those who can speak and has been speaking up, because maybe they're on the table that's chopping. So that's what you see. And I honestly really don't care who is National Secretary in PDP. But let due process be followed. That's all I am. When they resolve, go through due process and let the right people speak up and say no. So whether there's a third force coming, we've always known that. Is it just realizing that?
So you agree?
Of course. There are many forces.
Right,
and even within them, there are forces against themselves.
We're going to leave it here. While you're blaming the judiciary, some blame the politicians for circumventing the laws and everything. We'll stop it there. We don't have all the time.
I'm sorry. Blame also the citizens who are not saying enough is enough. Blame Nigerians.
All right.
Because when you sit up, politicians will have no option than to sit up.
Ezigbo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.